Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Alonso Vargas. Alonso is the SVP of Product at Flybuy. Alonso, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jean-Paul. Thank you for having me. Really great to be here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So, Alonso, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the SVP of Product for Flybuy?
So I'm originally from West Texas, from El Paso, and I ended up going to school out in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, which is about as far culturally as you can go from El Paso. And I had the good fortune of meeting both my future wife and my future business partner. They went on to get degrees at GW, and I started working at software companies. But after about a few years, I got together with Matt Allard, my future business partner, and we started a company in basically the app space. This was even before the iPhone came out, so I'm dating myself here. Shortly before the iPhone came out, we built a platform, and it's basically a concierge and F&B platform for the hotel and casino space. So what that morphed into is basically mobile concierge apps and food and beverage at casino, being able to order at the poker table, being able to order from your hotel room, using an app to open a door. So all that really cool stuff. And we ended up selling our company to Flybuy. And the interesting thing is that Flybuy offices are located in the business part of the building where my wife and I used to live back in Washington, D.C. It's called the Paper Mill in Georgetown. And so that's really what brought me into Flybuy. And I had a lot of experience in the app space, customer experience space, and Flybuy thought that that would be a really good fit, the technology and the employees with what they're doing. So that brought me into being the SVP of Product for Flybuy.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the background. Interesting story and quite full circle to land back where you were living. But as a startup founder, you have a successful acquisition, you stay within the larger organization. There's obviously something there that kept you engaged. Tell us about Flybuy, the broader company, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
So I decided to stay because it's really cool. It's something that touches all of our lives. So what we do is we provide what we call an omni-channel location intelligence platform. And basically what that does, right, is it's provide location intelligence to staff at places like retail establishments, grocery stores, restaurants, especially QSRs, right? And so what we do is we operationalize locational intelligence, and we're able to let staff know, hey, John Paul is arriving, John Paul has been waiting for his order. And what we do is we provide just like a really seamless experience, and we also help improve throughput. So you're just doing a lot of really great stuff. What we say, it's a first to arrive, first out model, FAFO, instead of first in, first order, first out. And so this is creating a lot of really great experiences. We're working with companies that I interact with sometimes on a daily basis, like grocery stores. We work with companies like Chipotle, Max Burgers, Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Caesars Entertainment. And so it's all about where we spend our time outside of our houses and where we choose to oftentimes entertain ourselves. But basically what we're doing is we're providing that location intelligence so that all these businesses can provide better customer experience and improve their operations through location intelligence.
Love that. So let's jump straight into your role then, SVP of Product. You obviously straddle both sides, both in customer conversations, but also the technology behind it. So can you break down the role and help us visualize the day-to-days of it, particularly how it connects with the technology, the AI side behind the scenes?
On the one hand, I'm working very closely with our CEO, Mark Wallace, right? The product role is very much having to understand the CEO priorities, understand the business. And so I'm often dealing with what the business priorities are, what our alignment is. And then I have a great team of product managers who basically help operationalize that all those business objective, all the business priorities. We work very closely with the engineers in order to help establish requirements, priorities. We run that through our product process. And then on the output of that, we work very closely with our customer success team and sales team to both be selling it and implementing it. So that's very much what I do from a product perspective. It's super fun because, again, it's very much like the role that I was doing previously as a CEO, except I don't have all the headaches. But I get to continue to work in the technology side. But I also do a lot of evangelizing, right? I help with writing articles, writing white papers, and just helping be the voice for our company, because I think that there's a really big need to understand the difference between what just location data is and something that's operationalized and can make a difference within your business immediately as soon as you implement it. So that's my job, to also evangelize those concepts, which to me is really fun as well.
So, Alonso, one of the things you mentioned there is operationalizing the location data, the location AI. Can you describe what that means to help us visualize what that looks like, and what would be the end benefits to the customers who are using Flybuy for this information?
So, like I was mentioning, we're providing these signals to the staff member, and we're letting them know when customers are arriving. We're also messaging the customer, right? So we're making sure that the customers is part of the journey, not just a spectator. But in all of this, I think the most important thing is for us to have the right signals, the right location intelligence, and that really comes down to ETAs, right? So typically we get this information from navigation providers, right? And what they're doing is they're trying to get somebody from point A to point B. And oftentimes they're just putting a pin right on top of a building. And so what we're doing is we have a better indication as to when somebody's going to be arriving to the place where they do pickup, or they're coming to do drive-through, or maybe they're coming inside to do the pickup order instead of curbside. And so we're taking all of this data that we have, because we're working with over 30,000 locations. We process over 1 million transactions per day. We take all of this data and we're creating a product called ETAI, right? So what that means is we take customer behavior, we take contextual order information, and all of that information basically outputs into a model that gives us more accurate ETAs. The reason that's important is because whenever somebody's coming to pick up an order, or even if it's a driver from a company like DoorDash or Uber, you don't want them waiting more than 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, things start to really fall apart from a customer perspective and from an operational perspective. And so what we're doing is we're able to reduce those ETAs from anywhere between 60 and 90 seconds. So when you're talking about seconds counting, that reduction in the ETA is super important. So we're able to offer better service to our customers. And in the end, their customers are just getting a much better experience.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions. www.alldus.com.
I want to spend some time now talking about the team that you oversee, the team that you work with, and give our listeners a bit of a look behind the scenes of the day-to-days, what the project lifecycle is like, the various positions that exist. Can you describe the current workflow from the positions that you see on the team, the day-to-day, what it's like to be part of the AI and data team at Flybuy?
Obviously, I'm working with a lot of the technical folks, but we are a very, I think, product and technical forward organization. And our founder is also an engineer, which it's great for me, right? Because I get to work with a lot of engineers. And so what we're doing is we're distilling a lot of those business priorities and we're creating PRDs, right? Our product managers create those PRDs. That's going to have all of our user stories, our acceptance criteria, and any business context that's going to be important for the engineers who are going to consume that document and then create their own requirements out of that. And so we have some tools on our side where we create those priorities, where we create all of that requirement structure and everything that we may need in order to communicate back to the engineers who have their own product. They're using GitHub, and that's where their day-to-day is. So once PRDs are in a good place, the engineers have had a chance to review them, then we all get together as an organization, both product and engineers. And typically, I'm working very closely with everybody from the vice president of engineering to all of our engineers, back-end, front-end, and mobile engineers, going through those PRDs and having really healthy discussions about the problems that we're trying to solve, right? And that's what our job is as a product organization, is to really articulate that. shepherd those things from our customer to the engineering organization, and they determine how to implement, whether it's an enhancement, a new product, a fix, what have you. And so we lean on them to really come up with those solutions. And what sits between, we have another very interesting organization is our solutions engineers. And they sit between the customer, the product organization, and the engineers. Very technical, able to code, able to implement, very agile. And they're the ones who plug in the gaps. And it's really fun working with them because they have a product role, they have an engineering role, and they have a business role. And so this is a very interesting team that rolls up to our CTO. And we work very closely with him as well. And he oversees very much a lot of the technical organization, what's going on from a high level perspective, and works very closely with the solutions engineer. So I get to work with a lot of business folks and I get to work with a lot of engineering folks. All that to be said, we have a very defined PRD process that defines how we take those business objectives and priorities and translate that into requirements for the engineers.
Staying on the topic then of business objectives, when you look at the year ahead, the near-term roadmap, what are some of the marquee things that you and the team are focusing on? What are you excited about for the next chapter? And given the advancements that are happening with Flybuy, what major steps forward in the platform or product do you see that we can expect in the near term?
We're all talking about the AI part, right? And that's being implemented into very much the DNA of our company. I talked about how we're using it for ETAs. So that's a really big thing for us. And I think that a lot of companies are going there. At the same time, what we're noticing is that there's very much a shift. And besides offering operational efficiencies, we're going to be getting into how you protect your revenues, how you increase your revenues, and how you use location intelligence to do that. So that might mean making sure that we're reaching out to the customer at the right time and at the right place to make sure that they have everything in their order. They may want to add something else. Those kinds of reminders are really interesting. And I think that this is the future in terms of personalization. We often look at how personalization affects us individually or what we are doing as companies in order to help the consumer and our clients. I think that what's going to start to happen is that we're going to realize that there's a much bigger role at play here, which is the continuity of somebody's life, and how we fit in to that particular journey is going to be really important for businesses to really have a 2020 vision on. And so I think that's going to be where we're going. Where do we fit within the traveler's mind, within their journey, when they're going out to a restaurant, when they're going out to pick up their groceries, when they're picking up something from a retail restaurant? And so I think Flybuy is going to be thinking about those things and how we can help our businesses, help their customers offer a better experience, offer better throughput, offer better operational efficiencies. Those are our goals. And I think you're going to start to see a lot of that in the coming years.
Final question for me then, Alonso. Bringing it all back to the people side of things, you talked about the amazing people you work with, the various different teams and the impact that they have. When you look at the near-term roadmap, there's obviously going to be more and more work coming in, and that leads to growth of the business. As a former CEO of your own startup and now a senior leadership in Flybuy, I'm sure you're still heavily involved in the staffing side of things, speaking to candidates, trying to identify the right talent for the business. When you're speaking to people about Flybuy, and these are individuals who you think could add value to the company, what is it that you tell them about Flybuy, its mission, its environment, the people that gets these candidates excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I think is really fun at Flybuy. First of all, the technology that we are producing and selling is something that you can go and experience today. Go to a restaurant, go to a grocery store. Likely is they're using our technology in one way or another, especially if they're telling you some sort of signal about your arrival, right? And so that's something that I think people can conceptualize. They can ask themselves, how can I put myself in the shoes of the consumer? And what are the things that we can do to improve those things? So it's not something nebulous. It's something that's, I think, easy to understand. And I think that we're doing things that not a lot of companies are doing. So when you start talking about improving ETAs, and you got Google, you got Microsoft, and some of the stuff that we're doing is really awesome. And I think that there's a lot of really great opportunities out there. At the same time, we're working very closely with our clients. We hold forums for the restaurants. We hold forums for groceries. for grocery companies, and they come to our office. It's very much a round table discussion, and we're talking about what are things that are affecting the industry? How can we help you? And we bring our partners into that. And I think that kind of dynamic really puts you close to the people that you are servicing, which I think for an engineer and for anybody at a company is really fun, right? You're not really far from the consumer. You're actually seeing how your technology and your work affects the consumer. And on top of that, some of the stuff that we do, which is really cool as a result of being in DC, we can bring our clients to these forums, and then we go do things like go visit monuments and have a guided tour. Last year, we visited the Capitol, and we were able to see both houses in session. And if you're a history buff, that's really awesome. But even if you're not, seeing those kinds of things are really cool. Just by virtue of being in DC, Flybuy is in a really cool position to just offer a lot to their employees, as well as bring in customers to be able to experience all of that fun as well.
Alonso, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. Really appreciate you sharing your own journey from startup founder to successful acquisition and now your role at Flybuy. It's such an interesting use of AI and data, which can have continuous and more benefits as you look at different industries and ways to use it. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at Flybuy the very best of luck in the months and years to come. And we look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Yeah, right on. Thank you again for having me. Would love to come back. Hope you have a good one.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.